Hello and welcome to the Comicsiracy episode 602 for the week of Sunday, December 10th, 2023. My name is Ryan Higgins. Who's here with me this week?
Brock Sager.
Kevin.
Toby.
Lane.
Hey, everyone. I was waiting for it. I was waiting for some funny joke. Toby jumped in the chat with a Doctor Who spoiler. Toby, you catch up on Doctor Who. No spoilers, of
it's
course.
only a spoiler if you know what I'm actually talking about.
I know. I just watched it, so good gonna get spoiled by your username. Talk to Charlie about Doctor Who later, I'm sure. We're catching up on some news from the last month. What's great about month old news is when the news is no longer a thing or accurate, but that's actually funny because I do want to talk about.
Well, all the mistakes are out of the way and corrected.
Yeah, and I also didn't fact check any of this later, so I'm just going off a post from a month ago on some of these where I'm like, "Cool, what happened? I have no idea. Was there any follow up? No clue. We'll find out together." Well, it's very good. Yeah, this is going to be kind of. Oh, I should say. I should say we should have our normal episode next week. Probably off for a couple weeks, just because it's Thanksgiving. Or it's Thanksgiving. It's Christmas and New Year's. People are people are gone. People are traveling. Our normal recording day would either be Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, or Christmas Day, New Year's Day.
Does this mean you're going to give us homework? Son of a.
No, we'll have a regular episode next week. We'll probably be off the next 2 weeks, but January will. I was going to say, as we've done the last year or two, I think, we used to do more structured end of year episodes. Clearly, there's no point of that. It just doesn't work. I'm so off that. So we kind of, we've moved to let's just discuss stuff from the year, things, comics and comic related stuff we liked. But I think that even becomes a little bit harder this year with the comic movies and TV shows, stuff we liked. So because there's not much. I don't think there's much we could talk about that we liked in those regards. I guess there's some, but we'll at least kind of do a nice little year in review. And
we can say how we liked
out
this was a humbling year for the media.
Yeah, well, and we'll be able to talk Aquaman because Aquaman will come out after our next episode, so we won't have a proper Aquaman 2 episode. I know you've all bought your advance tickets, got your perfect seats.
I did.
Kevin's giving me the look.
I did. My son and I are going on Saturday, the 20th.
Nice.
Oh, it's my main crush. Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah. No, I'm going. Kevin, Lane, catch it on HBO Max.
I like the first one in a Flash Gordon way.
Yeah. Don't need more.
I don't know if I need a Flash Gordon 2, but if all you guys come back and say it's amazing, well,
probably not, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, fun's all I can ask. Uncomic related, just like Doctor Who. See, amazing, and I will throw this out there just because you might have an extra week to see it. We did see Godzilla -1 today. Now that is legitimately amazing. That was, even if you're not a Godzilla fan, it is worth seeing.
those Godzilla scenes were incredible.
Intense.
Yeah.
Just the movie itself is fantastic. So highly recommended. Go see it in the theater. We're going to see The Boy and the Heron next week. What's it called in Japan? The Miyazaki movie. I forget what it's called, but it's called The Boy and the Heron here. So a lot of movies end of year. God, I got 3 or 4 movies all in a row we're going to go see. What's up? How do you live? Yeah. Well, we do have some random news from the last month worth catching up on here. Yeah. Some fun topics, some not so fun topics. But you know what? That's the news. We're going to talk about this. And Toby, glad you're here because this first topic is for me and you. Night Thrasher's back, baby, in a new solo series. Get ready for it. Night Thrasher miniseries.
Wasn't that news a couple months ago?
Like I said, we're catching up on news from the past.
Everything on this show is microwaved.
No, but I'm pretty certain I wanted to talk about it a couple months ago.
We had a couple of big picture episodes and movie talk, and we've not had a news. So I have a bunch of backlog stuff. We're gonna rapid fire through a bunch of this.
Okay. But hell yeah, tie me up.
So yeah, I specifically saved this for me and you. I am unfamiliar with the creative teams, but that's okay. There's new people coming in the comics all the time. Jay Holtham and Nelson Daniel doing the writing and artists. So I'll give it a shot. Hey, look, it's Night Thrasher. I'm
now hopefully
legally obligated to buy every appearance of mainline New Warrior solo books. So
now hopefully this isn't a way for Marvel to segue like hashtag Snowflake and all of those other New Warrior characters.
Pretty confident never see them again. Pretty confident you never see them again. But you don't know.
Come on, comics gods. Just give me that.
Maybe they'll show up in a what's the DC? Oh God, what was it called? The Implosion, when they reprinted all the DC Comics Cavalcade, right?
Yeah.
They could do a Marvel COVID Cavalcade and reprint all the unpublished Marvel books from. I'm gonna tweet that. That's really good. I'm gonna skeet that later. So yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that. Marvel COVID Cavalcade. Yeah, I like that. All right. Yeah. Okay, that was mostly just for fun. Actual news of a product people might buy, and related to something I already mentioned on this podcast. Marvel is releasing a Godzilla omnibus for the first time, reprinting their classic 1970s Godzilla series. Like the ROM and Micronauts, this is not like a joke. This is a really big deal. Marvel has never reprinted this stuff. But did they maybe do an epic? Did they do a Godzilla epic collection or essential collection?
They did.
Yeah. But full in color, entire original series. These licensed books, 20-something issues. It wasn't very long.
It's one omnibus. You wouldn't get a volume 2.
Yeah. 24 issues. Yeah. Those license. I think we talked about this with ROM and Micronauts, and then obviously Star Wars, and the licensed comics from Marvel in the 70s and 80s, Transformers, G.I. Joe. I mean, these were some of the most important and best-selling comics for Marvel and for all of comics at the time. They were such a draw for the non-comic reader to get into comics. Just like now, you get a lot of stuff, right? People come in from manga, and people come in from the licensed material, right? So, every customer, like half my customers, I swear, they're like, yeah, the first comic I read was Transformers. The first comic I read was G.I. Joe, right? Yeah. Godzilla, obviously a little bit older than that, but it's the same idea where so many people got into Marvel because of these books. This was sort of their entry point. So getting this stuff back and reprinted. I'm a little concerned about the coloring. I hope they don't fuck it up. But they, this will be the first time they've actually reprinted this stuff in color. And the complete series. So yeah, really happy Marvel seems to be all in on the licensed stuff. That's, licensing, the licensed properties are hard. They obviously own Star Wars outright, so that's a lot easier. But when it comes to ROM and Godzilla and books like that, it's a little bit more tricky. So I really hope they have a deal with Skybound for Transformers and G.I. Joe. There is so much money being left on the table by not having those books in print. Transformers and G.I. Joe are still incredibly popular franchises, and it's crazy to me that they've been out of print for so long. But yeah, you think just let's work together, and you could put a terrific collection out, and they would make some serious cash on those books. So yeah, Godzilla coming out omnibus. And again, the problem with licensed material is once that license is gone, it's kind of tough to get back, and they don't always go back and do it. So
things can get complicated.
They can go out of print extremely fast. So I suggest buying this ASAP if you want it. Don't wait for some giant deal. If you really want it, buy this day one, because it shows support. It shows support, right? That people want to buy this. And two, you're going to have a better chance to get it, because if this goes out of print, it'll be hundreds and hundreds of dollars on the secondary market within days of going out of print. So, Big picture news. I have not had a chance to play around with it yet. I'm dreading it. I've kind of put it off. But I don't know if any of you have. ComiXology
It died, didn't it?
is officially over. ComiXology is officially no longer a product.
Oh, that reminds me. I think I got to delete the app off my phone.
I actually curious. Open it. What does it do? Does it tell you to go to Kindle? Does it kick you over to Amazon? Yeah, check. I have no idea. I don't have it installed on my phone. I never moved it over from my old phone because I rarely used it. I only have a couple books on there.
I guess I actually was efficient and deleted it.
Did you? Yeah.
Or it deleted on its own. Who knows?
I don't know. Can it do that? Maybe.
Well, Facebook Messenger today told me we will automatically install when we feel like it and do things without your permission. And I'm like, huh?
I mean, obviously not comic related, but yeah, they're splitting Facebook Messenger and Instagram Messenger. They're splitting those apart again. So it's not one program. Yeah. So that's probably why they're doing that. But yeah, I actually haven't tried ComiXology. I don't know if anyone still has it installed on their phone or if they still have a...
I have it on my Kindle, but I have not opened it in the last 3 days. So,
yeah. You have the actual...
I have the comics. There's a ComiXology icon app on the Kindle.
Right. Yeah, I wonder because that's merged in, because it's now just part of Kindle and part of Amazon. So I wonder if they've just removed that or if it still works installed on the Kindle, if it still just opens up the comic bits. So it'd be interesting to test. Maybe I'll log into my ComiXology account and see what happens. But yeah,
hey,
ComiXology is...
How long did it last?
No, because it was around when New 52 launched. Because those launched day and date.
2007.
So it was around a couple years prior to that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as a guy that hasn't actually logged in his account in 3 years, are my books just gone?
Well, you have bought a lot of stuff, right?
Well,
in the past,
yeah, good amount.
In theory, the stuff is all. I mean, it's funny because I'm on the comics. I'm on Amazon.com/ComiXology right now. The word ComiXology still appears regularly through this page, so they have not pulled the branding off their pages, but yeah,
is the digital copy just transferring to an Amazon account or something? Or?
Yeah. So, but that's the problem with the modern. What ComiXology is now is that it is just shoved into Amazon. It's shoved into Kindle, and they have the team is disbanded. It's gone. It's just part of Kindle now, and Kindle is not comics. It's just not designed and built the same way.
Yeah.
So early reports when it started was atrocious, right? Just completely terrible. Terrible formatting. Things like new releases were not. There was no new release page. It wasn't in order. So there's all of these problems. They still call it ComiXology Unlimited. So I mean, the 30-day trial is still here. They have not removed this stuff from Amazon yet. But yes, ComiXology as we know it officially died a few days ago. The actual app and everything like that. So. Yeah. So over to Kindle.
ComiXology was going to destroy the comic book market, and comic book stores were going to be ruined by it.
Well, I mentioned this, right? I think I posted this on Blue Sky. I would love to see internal numbers for Marvel Unlimited and DC Universe Infinite, because way more than ComiXology, those I expect have a much more significant impact on what people buy, because Brock, me and you do the same thing, and I don't know if the rest of you guys use this, but the stuff I don't care about I read there, right? And if you're buying it allows customers to spend theoretically less to get a lot more. It's great for the customer, but for the industry, is it better? They're getting more eyes on stuff, but if you're only buying the good stuff, I guess that's probably better for everyone, because you're more happy. You're more likely to buy if you're buying less, but you like everything you're buying. and you kind of like it's like Netflix, right? Like nobody goes to see these movies in the theaters, but some garbage movie becomes the number one stream movie on Netflix because, hey, it's free, quote unquote. It's no additional cost. It's free with the price of Netflix. So whatever, I'll watch whatever garbage I want on Netflix, but I'm not going to pay money to go to the theater to see it, right? I wonder what the numbers are on like kind of the garbage titles at Marvel and DC, because I bet they're okay. Because it's maybe a lot of people are like, well, yeah, again, it's free, so I'll buy this, but I'm only going to shell out money for Batman and Spider-Man because those are my must-haves.
I think that's one of the difficult parts about the industry is just not having those numbers and seeing, what the industry is actually doing. Like, yeah, if Batman's great and Spider-Man's great, cool. But, how are those other books doing, right? Like, people will scream and rant and rave about stuff, but, honestly, how well did Hawkgirl do? Like, how well did, the last Captain Marvel series?
I posted my numbers on Twitter.
I know. I'm specifically using those as an example but that's the thing, right? It's without knowing the numbers from the publisher, we don't really get any idea of, kind of where these are at, or, is something going to become, is something going to become popular even though it didn't have a lot of eyes on it? Because it'd be nice to see what are people reading on these apps.
Oh, we've seen this, right? I mean, things become incredibly popular. I mentioned this. I can't remember if it was on here or Geekbox, but the video game industry seems to be the one industry that this kind of works for, where things can become like they're free downloads or they're free on Xbox Live or Game Pass, or it's Rocket League is free with PlayStation Plus, and then it blows up and it becomes this humongous game, right? Or obviously things like Fortnite where it's free to play, that's a little bit different. But Vampire Survivor, it was like $1. And it's this humongous game now where people are paying. Everyone's happy to pay for it because it's so it just became this massive success. Movies and TV and comics and music it doesn't translate the same way. Something about it, people don't buy the albums, people don't buy the comics if it blows up. People don't go to the movie. If something is big on Netflix, there's no relation to that having an increase in sales of DVDs and Blu-rays. Not that I know of. I've never seen any, anyone say, "Oh, sales on whatever some bullshit TV show from what's the one that everyone watches on Netflix now? The Suits, right? Like, I mean, that was like 100 years ago at this point, and like, are they selling out of Blu-rays on Black Friday and Amazon? Probably not, right? But video games kind of is the one where it feels like something about that is translated and made it work, but it doesn't work with anything else. Not that I can tell.
Well, I wouldn't use those as good examples of why they work, because if you're looking at specifically like Fortnite, Rocket League,
well, those are different. Those are free to play, and then you have the microtransaction stuff. But I mean,
microtransaction. It's the professional leagues.
But not now. No, there's no money in esports. No, esports.
It's not for the standard player. Like, there's nobody watching it, but everybody wants to become a pro, and so everybody's trying to make money. So they're buying the product, getting everything, and they're putting all the hours into it to become a pro. Not saying they're succeeding, but if you could trick 1,000 people into doing this,
maybe a couple people, but no, there's so few of that is why people are playing these games. No, people play it because everyone hears it's great, right?
Yeah, and all their friends are playing it, and then they,
right.
For the same reason they want to become pro, or they see these things in the chains or the ladders and stuff. They're competitive. So the thing is, there has to be a secondary gain out of it. Like, you're gaining the prestige of becoming a bigger clan or a better player. You don't get anything extra out of reading a comic.
I think the interactivity is it. Yeah. I don't think 99.9% of cases are people thinking they're going to become pros. But I think there is that. Yeah, my friends are playing and we can all go online and play. Video games, music, TV shows, movies. These are all very solitary things.
Yeah.
But you have cases. Right? Vampire Survivor is a single player game, right? And it's massive, right? It's become this juggernaut. But it's through word of mouth and success. And you get games that they'll go on a humble bundle, and then it gets people to buy. After the humble bundle's over, people are like, oh shit, this game's awesome, and then tons of people start buying it. So the influence on games. Giving it away basically for almost nothing can drive sales. It doesn't always, but it can. Movies and TVs and comics and like fucking Spotify is laying off like 20% more, 15% more of its staff or something like that. They're hemorrhaging money. I guess maybe not the people at the top, but no one's getting paid. They're cutting out something crazy. Like 60% of people aren't going to be getting royalties from was it 60? I think that's what I read. Something like 60% of people on Spotify will be getting $0 from them because they don't meet the minimum threshold, their new minimum threshold, something like that. It's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Comics are very low on the totem pole, and it's like, I think a lot of people are just like, I'll just pay Marvel Unlimited, DC, ComiXology, $20 a month gets me every comic published, and just kind of, I'll buy a couple good things. So how much that influences, physical issue sales, it's probably pretty strong. It hasn't had the effect where, everyone reads God's Number One for free on the Marvel Unlimited app and then is like, oh shit, I'm going to go buy the comic. They just don't.
Well, even then, it's just, the problem is that it's a one-time medium, right? You read it once, you're good. Maybe you might read it one more time, or, if it's your favorite book, maybe once a year. But the games and all these other things, they thrive on repeat customer. It's all about getting you back into and that's how they get you.
And I mean, people definitely rewatch TV shows and movies, but I would think a lot of people, they just hit play and have it on in the background, right? Or it's
it has to be habitually, like it needs to be daily, basically, in order for you to make money off of it.
Yeah, it doesn't work quite the same way. But I do think things like ComiXology spurned people to buy their favorite things. I really think digital was not a negative. Having less access to comics, no matter what the format, is always a bad thing. Digital was the new newsstand. It allowed people to just kind of browse and get whatever. The comic shop is still the specialty location. It's never going to change. How many people are willing to shell out $6 a month for ComiXology Unlimited on a whim? Probably not that many, right? You're getting Marvel Unlimited or DC Infinite if you're already in the world. So, but if someone was browsing Amazon and they see comics for sale, maybe they'd be like, oh yeah, I just saw that Batman movie. I'll buy this Batman comic. They don't know what ComiXology is. They don't know any of this stuff. So yeah, it's kind of it might be better in the long run. I don't know if Amazon can figure it out. Maybe it works, but I don't have a lot of hope for it. But rest in peace, ComiXology. Your branding is still around, but you as a separate program is basically dead. We've talked about this on and off as the last, during the last couple of months of the demise of ComiXology, and now it is gone. So, what else we got? This is a good one. This is a really good one.
Uh-oh.
I got some thoughts on this.
Oh shit!
So this came up on Bleeding Cool. So just to get into is this a solid month? Just shy of a month old, but I do want to talk about this. There was a little rumor going through Thought Bubble, which is one of the UK, one of the European comic conventions, and that was that there could be, let's see, let's hope, let's all pray, the return of Vertigo to DC Comics. This was the rumor. This was the rumor. Now, Bleeding Cool has some thoughts on this. Pamela Lifford, who was the head person in charge of the section of Warner Brothers and Warner Discovery that ran DC Comics. We talked about at length about Black Label and Batman Damned and all that stuff, basically killed all the imprints, right? Zoom, Inc., their kids' books, their kids' lines, Vertigo, all that stuff. Black Label had like just started, so that was a little like different. I guess that was left to stick around.
I think Black Label stuck around more so because the creative talent was behind it, and they wanted to, and they were already engaged and committed to it. And I think if they had burned that bridge with letting people have that adult playground for DC, in essence, I think that would have been a lot harsher for DC, because like the kids stuff is like whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they had an idea with Black Label to be like the R-rated or hard PG-13 rated DC comic stuff. They didn't want to put that stuff in Vertigo, but they still wanted to do more mature content. So having Black Label, it's still DC Comics. So Vertigo has always kind of been seen as like a separate thing. Now, I actually do agree that Vertigo should not be a separate branding. Sandman should say DC, right? Preacher should say DC. But having a sub-imprint Vertigo where they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want, when you have the thing at the movie theaters, when, you know, whatever, the Losers movie comes on, it should still say DC. You know, things like that I kind of do agree with. That you want to get the DC branding on it. The spine of the books, just have it say DC. It's fine. But Vertigo as an imprint and Vertigo as a brand to have as a sub-brand of DC is such an important part of the comic industry for the last 30 years. It is, from a corporate end, I understand, but from a artistic and creative point, it drives me crazy that they got rid of it. Vertigo it allowed them to do all sorts of crazy stuff, which is great, but it just gave DC a place to like have new creators come and do stuff. And it was, you know, it's second really only to Image as far as like, you know, even at the time of its demise of like, you know, unique non-superhero content. Look, there's all sorts of great companies out there, but Boom and Scout and Vault, and none of them had the prestige. None of them have the prestige that Vertigo has. Image is, I think, the closest. If we give DC and Warner, you know, immediate rights or some level of rights into option this stuff, and you know, feed into HBO Max or into Max and Discovery's, you know, TV movie line and Warner Brothers movie line. Like, it's just crazy to me that they got rid of it. They could have just changed up the policies and had this, you know, this massive corporate backed but independent studio to just do whatever the hell. And all it takes is one or two things to be successful. Comics are it's such a cheap medium compared to movie and TV and video games. Mm-hmm. Like, it costs nothing to do this stuff comparatively. So people run wild. Yeah, I want nothing more than Vertigo to come back. I would be just over the fucking moon if it comes back.
Now, I glanced over at my shelves. And my deluxe hardcovers of Fables, that all have Vertigo down at the bottom,
except for one.
I'm like 16. Is 16's going to come out and it's going to say Black Label, and I'm going to be like, "Fuck you, DC."
Again, I think a major thing with Vertigo leaving and all these imprints going is the back and forth between DC Vertigo. Because remember, for a while, it was called DC Vertigo. They actually technically changed the name.
Well, no, it's okay. This is the simple fix. Put the DC logo at the top of the spine. Put Vertigo at the bottom of the spine.
I you know, from that point of view, I really don't care. DC just needs to be on it. You know, there's arguments for, you know, how you line this stuff up. And that is a sticking point, but it's not the quality of the product. But to make it easier, again, Sandman should just say DC. Preacher should just say DC. Transmet should just say DC. But have Vertigo on the front. Have Vertigo in the labeling. Have it be separate editorial team. Have it be independent from DC Comics proper. As far as you can't expect Vertigo titles to operate on the same financial system that Batman and Superman does. They need to be free to do what they want to some degree. Obviously, you can't have things that are just hemorrhaging money, but you've got to let this stuff go. Do you think Transmet would have? I mean, it was Helix, that right? It was the imprint Helix.
Helix.
I mean, they're sold well enough to go, but do you think Transmet would get an issue like 8 or 9 or 10 today? No, it would have been axed. One of the strongest things about Vertigo is they let Hellblazer run. They let Shade the Changing Man run. They let Swamp Thing run. In those early days, these books just went. Doom Patrol, Books of Magic, right? They did all this stuff that ran pretty long. You have to let the audience build up. And yeah, I want nothing more than the Vertigo to come back. This is, again, just a rumor, and who knows? Maybe it doesn't happen. But I'd be very disappointed.
Just think of how many titles are on your recommendation list that are Vertigo titles.
I mean, I'll just blanket recommend Vertigo. If it was a Vertigo book, buy it. You are more than likely to get something cool and interesting. It may not be your thing, but there's very few duds. Comparatively, there's very few duds compared to like mainline DC or Marvel or even Image. I mean, Vertigo was not publishing a bunch of garbage every month for no reason. It was pretty selective. There were points where it expanded and they had a decent amount of titles, but they weren't publishing 50 or 60 Vertigo books a month. They were always pretty small. Yeah. I would kill to have Vertigo back. Now, I don't want it to just be, Sandman spinoffs and Hellblazer and that's it. I want them to do creator own stuff and new old stuff and cool stuff, and you could take old DC characters and redo them in the Vertigo fashion, do whatever the hell you want. But if you're going to relaunch Vertigo, you just have 2 one-shots. You have Vertigo and Vertigo and Vertigo 2. I don't know what the hell you call them.
Wasn't there Vertigo Visions? Remember that?
Yeah.
Winner's Edge or Winner's Special.
Yeah, there was a bunch of those specials. Just give me 2 books and just be like, oh, no, I take that back. Sorry, take that back. 3 books. Book number 1. You bring back Gaiman. You bring back Morrison. You bring back
Milligan.
P. Milligan. You bring back Jamie Delano. You bring back all those people that were there at the very start of Vertigo, the earliest stuff. Obviously, you're not getting Alan Moore. You're not. Moore. Yeah, right. But he hit at the tail end of the last. No. Swamp Thing was never actually published under Vertigo. It wasn't until after he left. So you get those people that were there at the very tail end, or the books that would become Vertigo, right? You get that batch, and you have them do. It's just a 1-issue, 3 or 4 short stories, just an anthology. Be like, this was the start, and then you bring back Brian Azzarello, you bring back Garth Ennis, you bring back.
You need Matt Wagner.
Matt Wagner. It was for Sandman Mystery Theater. But I'm thinking more the second batch. You bring back Warren Ellis. You bring back that era of Transmet, Preacher, Y. Bring back Andy Diggle, DMZ, things like that, right? Bring back Brian Wood. That I don't know, Brian Wood. Brian Wood and Warren Ellis, I think, but whatever. Whatever. You can figure it out. That batch, right? Kind of that real big second wave of Vertigo. Nothing against the people that did stuff later, but those let's focus on that big batch of creators right there. And you have look, you can't have Steve Dillon obviously passed away, but you can have an all-star group of people do a Preacher story with Garth Ennis, just a little kind of one-off little side thing. You can get other people to work with him if he would do that without Steve Dillon. Not saying this is perfect. But then the third book is basically like the next like 3 books they're going to launch. Right, the starting point for the next 3 series. It's like the 3 number ones stuck in a book together, and just be like, and now here is the new book from X, Y, and Z, and we're off. This is parts 1, 2, and 3, and then we go. And so it's these 3 books, all combined: the past, like the beginning, the middle, and now the future. And you obviously probably going to want some real high profile person in that third book to really grab someone. Yeah, you can put like Tiny in or someone in there to really goose sales in that third book. I'm sure if there's a Vertigo coming back, Tiny is going to be doing something for him. But yeah, God, I want Vertigo back so bad. That's all I got. You guys want Vertigo back? Do you care? Does it matter? Does the brand matter more than the content?
I think of Young Animal as kind of a Vertigo light.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was in the same wheelhouse. Yeah.
And so
it didn't go anywhere.
Perform well enough as a store owner where you'd go like, more of that, please.
Well, the Doom Patrol did okay. The others did fine. They were selling about what Vertigo stuff was at the time. I mean, at the end, they brought back some stuff. They tried like another Books of Magic run. They tried a couple things, but that tail end of Vertigo, nothing was really hitting. I don't know if it's just editorial or content just wasn't the strongest, or if it was just that market had drifted away from DC entirely. If because there wasn't that one book kind of pulling the rest of Vertigo along, because they had reduced output dramatically, so you just didn't have an audience for that. But yeah, if you have Vertigo and you have an ongoing Hellblazer book, an ongoing like Sandman universe book done by other people, and then 2 other ongoing titles. So you have 1 book a week, and then you just have like a mini series kind of always running. So let's say there's always like kind of 5 Vertigo books around. That'd be great. You give people that this is what they want. They want the Vertigo style stuff. Just have rotating 4th and 5th spot of miniseries and 12-issue runs and stuff. You get a real strong, you have a couple older connective books, because I know there's that new Hellblazer book coming out, the Suspiria one, which that last run was fantastic. So I hope this one like sticks around and is not just another 12-issue mini. I hope like let's get an ongoing Vertigo era John Constantine title. Young Animal was cool. The Doom Patrol stuff was sold really, really well. But by the end, people really fell off on that. I think that book was tough to keep going for too long. The creative team just wasn't sticking around. What's his face wasn't. He wasn't doing it often enough. The book became so late by the end there. So, yeah. I mean, part of me just wants to see that big black Vertigo stamp again on stuff, and that will draw some people. But the mentality, the back end, that the drive of what Vertigo was, and especially in that first 15 years or so. We can get that back. It'd be great. So I can't wait. Sorry, Toby. More weirdo Ryan books on the shelf.
I actually like Vertigo.
Would you limit Vertigo to that same kind of headspace that it used to be, though, or would you allow more freedom this time? Like, because I think what I like about Black Label is Black Label allows you to do the same thing that Vertigo does, but with, like, for example, mainstream DC characters, not just the offbeat ones.
Yeah, no, I think it's a mix of both, right? I don't want a Batman or Superman Vertigo book. No, absolutely not. That's what Black Label's for. I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, a mix of your real offbeat oddball characters, and it doesn't have to be limited to Swamp Thing and Hellblazer. You can, if you want to have people come in and reinvent, I don't know, like Vigilante, or you want to do some like hard-boiled Western Vigilante comic under Vertigo, like the Jonah Hex books were. Go for it. That'd be cool. That'd be neat.
Oh, Jonah Hex's Vertigo. I take.
They did. I mean, they did a ton of Vertigo Jonah Hex books. Yeah. Or even Jonah Hex, right? Yeah, you sure? If you want to have a Jonah Hex Vertigo book, bring that back. That'd be great.
You know, be really fun to have back. Demon Knights. Let's do that as a Vertigo.
Yeah, I think that would be like a cool middle ground. They probably have to change up who's in the book, but I think that'd be great if Demon Knights was either Vertigo or Black Label. Yeah, those are cool titles, and I think that would work really well. Yeah, I wouldn't want it to just be like, look, here's Sandman, of course I want Sandman, but like I don't want it to just be here's Swamp Thing and Hellblazer and that's it and nothing. No, go crazy. You're Vertigo. Go do all sorts of weird shit. You don't get Preacher and Transmed and Y and Fables and DMZ and Scalped and God, like what? I just go 100 Bullets. Like I don't just go look at my shelf. I'll see what fucking books I have up there because it's all Vertigo. Yeah, Kid Eternity. God, like it's just all sorts of random ass shit.
We three.
Oh, Sea Guy, baby. Where's Sea Guy Volume 3? Well, you probably can't get Cameron Stewart back, but let's get Morrison back. Find another artist, and yeah, let's go get Sea Guy 3. Hell yeah, give me that Sea Guy. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, fucking random shit, dude. Imagine if they did V3 or V6. How about that? V3 too. Imagine if they had Morrison and Quietly come back to do that. Oh, that'd be the greatest thing ever. Please. Vertigo. Come on, baby.
Supposed to do a movie
for V3?
Yeah,
probably. Yeah, sure. There's a million movies.
That would be a nice time to do that movie, and then there's your tie-in.
For V3, God, that'd be. I don't know.
Shit, I forgot Sheriff of Babylon.
Sheriff of Babylon. Yeah, yeah. That's one of that is one of the last Vertigo books. Yep, Sheriff of Babylon. And again, at the time, nobody cared. Right? Nobody. Tom King and Miscarriage. Who the hell are these guys? No.
Who the hell are these guys?
Right. I mean, look, that is Vertigo. You have. This was the idea was built on. Let's go over to Europe, grab these random writers. We'll put them on Swamp Thing and Sandman and Doom Patrol. Nobody cares about these books. Let's say Grant Morrison, Neil Gaiman, Alan Moore. Who the hell are they? Nobody cares. Let's put them on and see what happens. Oh, what happens? Every single time, he becomes one of the best comic writers ever. You can, look, you're never going to replicate that. That's tough. But that playground, that mentality, that you foster that community within a Vertigo imprint.
You're losing a lot of that. You're losing a lot of that to potentially going to Image or
yes,
yeah, and that's the thing.
But it doesn't. You don't have to. If you're DC, why you have this legacy? Why are you not opening this up and just going, look? I get it. It's because of the corporate end of it. It's because of Discovery. It's Warner Discovery. But internally, they should fight for this. Just be like, look, we have the prestige, we have the history, we have the backing, we have the know-how. We've done this. We can make this work. And they have the corporate backing. They'd be like, and we're going to help your stuff come to movie. It's great that everyone gets 100% of everything they get from Image, but how many projects actually come to fruition? Like nothing, So why would DC not be in a position to have HBO and Warner be the direct, like you make the book for DC, it is immediately as part of this deal option in with Warner Discovery, and you have first look. You don't even need to shop this around. You're already in. That would draw big names. Even if you're not getting quite the same slice of pie, I think that would draw people in because they have the system built in for this to go directly to the people involved at the higher level to make the movies and TV shows. I'm still going to deal with all the corporate stuff. I'm not saying it's perfect, and it might not function. It might not work right. But if you're at Image, you still have to shop this stuff around and have people involved at all these levels. And that's a ton of work taking you away from making the comic. So it seems to me this would be such an easier way.
Almost like a Millarworld type arrangement.
Well, we can. I was going to go just in chronological order here, but I can jump ahead to Millarworld here if you want, because I can talk about Vertigo all day, but I don't have to talk about Millarworld all day. Our best friend Mark Millar, our best bud, comic friend and friend to everyone, Mark Millar, moving Millarworld, his imprint, Netflix's imprint, Netflix's comic imprint Millarworld is moving from Image Comics to Dark Horse Comics after 10 years, which, I didn't even put it together. Someone pointed this out. It actually totally makes sense because on Netflix, Dark Horse already has the license for all the Netflix stuff. They do Stranger Things. They do
Witcher.
What's that? They do Witcher. Right. So all those things that are on Netflix, regardless of what they come from, Dark Horse does a lot. So things like Trace, and there's a few others where they're not, but that comes from other companies originally. But yeah, a lot of those comics stuff is being done by Dark Horse already. So Millarworld, Mark Millar is taking all this stuff over to Dark Horse, which is not a small loss for Image. That's a big loss, and that's a big gain for Dark Horse. Dark Horse has kind of come around and reasserted themselves. They're not taking this line down, losing all the big stuff back to Marvel. All the big licenses and losing Conan, they have pushed hard to get back in this position. I on a personal level, have some concerns about Mark Millar and his current he's a little too how do I put this? Yeah, I don't know. There's not a great way to put this. He's not gone full comic skate yet, but he is definitely, and he's been, look, there's a reason I've disliked this guy for a very, very, very long time. He's been a scumbag forever, but he's smart enough to not be too, he has some not so ideas and thoughts, but he hasn't been too publicly just abysmal. Again, he's said some really dumb stuff and been on some really dumb shows and been on a bunch of like Scottish and UK like right wing shows and had some talking points, but he hasn't gone down the full bore comics gate like I just scream at people and harass people constantly all day. He is approaching that level, so I'm very concerned about this. I
mean, why are you really concerned? He won't be able to finish. He can't finish most things. So.
Every book he's done is
yeah, but his endings.
Oh, I mean, I would have no idea. I haven't read a Mark Millar comic in 20 years. So,
it's always you get to it and then you're like, okay. You read this big idea book and then the ending is just.
I wouldn't know.
That's what I experienced, so I stopped reading his stuff.
Yeah. I'm just, it's been a week on Twitter. I've tried to once again not look, because I needed to not look again. Like, I really don't look on purpose. I'd really only go on there now for work stuff, but I don't want to talk big picture.
The idiots rope you in.
They got me. They've really got me again.
Those idiots got you, man.
So yeah, so Millarworld's going over to Dark Horse.
You had to use data to shut them up, but they don't understand what that is. And then they make even more.
My block list got huge over this weekend, or this past week, so that's great. Millarworld's going over to Dark Horse. So that's interesting. Kind of related while we're talking about Image here. There has secretly been Image 2.0, and I don't know. We've really covered this. We've talked about it, obviously, but I don't know if people are really noticing what's going on with Ghost Machine, Jeff Johns' company now that's printing their comics through Image. It is not part of Image, but it's printing their comics through Image. There's been quite a few. They picked up. Who else? They just picked up. I'll have it in front of me here. They just got 2 new creators on board. Was Ivan Rice one of them? Right, he went over. I can't remember who the other person is. Bryan Hitch. So, and this is one of the things I had on the news story. Bryan Hitch just announced the other day that he is Superman: The Last Days of Lex Luthor will be his final work for hire project. He is no longer working for Marvel or DC or for any other licensed products. Again, we'll see. See what the future brings.
It's appropriate the way he's stretching it out. Let's make it count.
There is something about Last Days of Lex Luthor and Justice Society kind of being these guys leaving the direct market or leaving Marvel and DC to drag this out as long as physically possible. Again, this isn't as splashy as Liefeld and Jim Lee and all Sam Keith and everyone that went over to Image, McFarlane, all the guys that formed Image and went over there in the early days. But it's just as significant. A massive group of people have now left Marvel and DC to join Ghost Machine, and if they stick true, and this is the it for work for hire stuff. Again, we'll see, but it's not small. This should be a big wake up call for Marvel and DC to get some of these contracts, to get the parent companies to realize what is happening, because you don't get another. Bendis is gone, right? Bendis is a dark horse, so he's not either of these companies. If you're not, and this has obviously been a big topic of conversation on social media, basically this whole past year. Mark Millar, he obviously was at the top of his game, but he's comparing numbers of him to random people today. But he was like, he was making like 1,000% more than what some of these writers are making on books 20 years ago, right? So obviously he would have been the highest pay grade at Marvel at the time compared to just a rank and file person on a random Marvel or DC book today. But the fact that the pay rate is that severe that long ago to now is pretty damning. There is a sort of most people agree, and most rational people agree that the comic industry is definitely going through some changes. I don't think Marvel and DC are in this quote unquote death spiral that people seem to think they are, but they could. They have the characters, but the characters are only as good as the creators. And if they're not willing to shell out for real talent, and I don't mean that has to be existing people. You have new people. But you've got to keep those new people around. If you get someone that really clicks with you, you got to start paying these guys a little bit more to stick around, guys and girls to stick around, because they need some hits. I'm sorry, Mark Millar, just you coming back to Superman or whatever is not the answer to the comic industry's problem. That might be a Band-Aid for 6 months, but that's not the answer unless you're sticking around forever. Although I would not like that, but they need some funding from the parent companies, because you don't get the next Miles Morales, you don't get the next Spider-Verse, you don't get the next Blue Beetle. You take this all the way back to Superman and Spider-Man. You don't get those characters unless you've got talented people working for you, and if you're not, well, you got to pay out. You just have to. That's just the way it is.
Now, setting aside you
can't be scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Setting aside your own personal feelings, you, Ryan Higgins, for Ghost Machine, would you order those books or whatever's going to come out as everybody's going to want a Jeff Johns, Gary Frank, Jason Fabok, Ivan Rice, I'm ordering huge, or does it depend on what the book is, what the content is, the genre? I know for you personally, you'd order huge because you love all of those guys. I'm saying
every cover
for the marketplace. Do you think that the people are more interested in the singer or the song?
No, I think it's 50-50, right? Our numbers on Geiger and Junkyard Joe by any other creators would be a tenth of what we order by just about any, let's just say, normal indie small. If Junkyard Joe is made by two people I've never heard of, exact same book, but two people I never heard of, I would have ordered a tenth as many copies easily, just because. Yeah, they are the names. They have a track record. Now, it doesn't mean it lasts forever. I have a number of Brian Michael Bendis Dark Horse books that I order 0 shelf copies for. He's putting out a lot of stuff, and none of it seems to be selling very well, at least for us, right? Mark Millar books, most do okay. They do pretty well. Geiger and Junkyard Joe have done exceptionally well for us. And it's, it really is based on the names of the character, on the people. They're good books, but that's not Spider-Man, right? That's not Batman. It's these new characters.
Well, we've had a long-standing thing at our Comics Conspiracy with John's being a very popular writer and people liking his stuff, especially from Green.
Yeah.
And all that. So there's a significant subscriber base already built in our store for that.
Yeah, and that's not,
which isn't necessarily true.
No, of course, yeah. It's not every store is gonna have the same customer base, right? So it works for us, but yeah, if we had just random other people, it's not necessarily would have worked. What's the Tony Daniel Edenwood, right? So with although it did drop with Noctera, the Scott Snyder book, I mean that again did very, very well for us. By the end of the run, it was down quite a bit, but it still was outselling most. Well, I think at this point it would have outsold everything but Void Rivals and Transformers from Image and Saga. So it would have been number 4 or 5 for Image, and that's outselling half of Marvel and DC still, right? But him just going over and doing his own book, it sells okay. It's that combination, right? Of Tony Daniel and Scott Snyder. We obviously have a big draw for Scott Snyder. So it is always going to be a combination of creators and characters, and I think we lost Lane. It's going to be a good mix. It's going to be a good mix of people. So yeah, it's obviously John.
Well, I can even attest for Edenwood. I tried the first 2, and it just no.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not good. Yeah, I haven't read them yet.
It didn't the concept is there. The concept is interesting, but just the way it was presented, I didn't like it. And by issue 2, I was like, I don't care about these characters.
Yeah.
There's no with Noctera, I cared about it because there was what was it? Scott did that thing because it was during COVID, right? It was the Kickstart, that kind of first issue. There was a different hype about it. It was something new. But the story was still solid throughout, despite some delays and stuff like that with the title itself. But it had the natural attrition that anything has an ongoing, right? Yeah, but I don't know how, how are distillery numbers right now?
Fine. I think format's tougher. Some people don't care, but a lot of people are going to have issues with that format. I think we'd sell no more or less for us, but yeah.
Because that's another one of those, a lot of creators moving to one space away from the big two, because they want to do their own stories and be a little bit more experimentative and stuff like that. And
I think it's such a transitional period now for creators. Again, we've seen this before, but there's never been this many options. In the past, there kind of was Image and Dark Horse and a few small publishers. Now there's startups and Kickstarter and Indiegogo and digital, and I mean it's not the same world as Image. It's not even the same world as 2010 when you had kind of some big changeover at Marvel and DC pre-New 52 and Marvel Now, and a lot of creators kind of shuttle out and new people come in. it's a very different place. None of that stuff existed back then, not the same way. So yeah, if you're Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti, and you want to go off and kickstart all your stuff, that world's open for you now, right? You never have to work for Marvel or DC or Image again. So yeah, real different. I don't know. And obviously with stuff like Ghost Machine, there's plans here way past comics, right? It's IPs and licensing and merchandising and stuff, right? You have to. That comics are the print comic books are usually a small part of any of these bigger comic companies' plans. So,
oh yeah, I just watched the Dear Mr. Waterstein.
Oh yeah,
documentary, the Calvin Hobbes thing.
Yeah. Oh, he's a rare case of being able to write his own ticket and do whatever he wanted,
and that's the thing is he didn't license, he didn't do all that stuff, and he still made millions of dollars.
There's only one Calvin and Hobbes, though, right?
There's only one Calvin and Hobbes, right? Like, but that goes to show that it, where passion and drive and commitment can get you, but especially if you can hit.
But you were talking.
You hit it that
literally the one guy able to do this. No. There is not a second Calvin and Hobbes.
No. There's a lot of influence.
Peanuts and Far Side and every other major successful comic strip, Garfield, whatever. The licensing is a massive part, and that's because of the success of the product, right? The product. See, this is where I start to get a little concerned with things like Distillery and Ghost Machine. If the books aren't good, the licensing is meaningless. Yeah, you could be successful, but get the stuff on paper first. Have these ideas. Yeah. Have it. You don't need to sell. It doesn't need to just be us. If you're making the comic, but that's just like a fraction of what you're doing, and the focus is all these other places, then what's the point of the comic? Jeff Johns could take all these guys and go off and do a TV studio and bring them into his TV company, and they could all just write movies and TV forever. They don't have to do comics. So my hope is things like this. Comics is the goal, and the licensing is handled by other people. The TV shows are handled by other people. They all get a piece of the pie.
They put the licensing before the horse.
Yeah, right? You have to. Yeah,
the cart before the horse.
You have to make the product first, and it has to be good. Licensing and marketing and only gets you so far if the product sucks. So, that's really my hope.
Don't you want your junk?
I of course will buy every single thing because it's part of Jeff Johns. So you don't need to sell me on it, but you need to sell everyone else. Yeah. I will buy buy the Ghost Machine baby onesie, the Ghost Machine hubcaps, the Ghost Machine custom ear pods. I'm gonna
test him real quick. Would you buy the Ghost Machine Cybertruck?
I mean, if it's limited, if Jeff Johns would drive around with me in the car, yeah, sure.
If it has a Jeff Johns autograph, silk, painted onto the sides of the
nice.
It's in the dash.
And Jeff Johns is the voice of the navigator.
Okay. Now I'm definitely in. Okay, now I'm definitely in. Okay, I'm in.
You would ride around that ugly piece of crap.
I'm waiting to see the meanwhile live action adaptation.
Yeah,
next year.
I mean, it'll explode after 3 days, and kill me in a fiery wreck. But at least I'll have those 3 days with my Jeff Johns car. Let's do one or two more here, and then we'll call it a day. I thought this was interesting, but not as interesting as I think other people thought it was, because we've already been here. One of DC's big ideas, this came out from Tim Sheridan, one of the writers for DC Comics, currently on the Alan Scott comic, that he was one of the original creators involved with the 5G stuff that started in 2019 that was supposed to happen, in what would have been the pandemic times, but obviously didn't happen. Sort of there
because they ousted.
Yeah. The idea was to basically have all the creators exist as sort of a TV's writer room, where they would all get together, break out the story for the year or two, and then go off and do their own titles. That's how comics used to be, right? So this is why I found this was a little bit weird. Marvel and DC have done this forever, but they would have the writer retreats. They would get through and they'd be like, okay, we're going to have a year of Spider-Man. This is going to be our Superman stories. Death of Superman. The thing with Death of Superman was when they had the DC writer room, the writer retreat every year, someone would always, this is like the joke, someone would always say, let's just kill him. Let's just kill him. And finally they were like, fuck it. We don't have any more ideas. Sure. Let's just kill him. Right. So this has always been the way comics have been, which makes me really concerned that that's not the way is that not how they are anymore? Because
I thought it was,
right.
But just the Batman group, just the Superman group. So if he's like on Flash, he doesn't have a group.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of these people are still involved in like the bigger plot. So I'm a little bit confused by the story because maybe this was a much more bullpen, old school Marvel cross-gen style. But
it was them wanting everybody to come to the office.
Yeah.
Right, like that's
but more than that. I mean, this sounds like more than just, let's talk and plan a story, because they have to obviously still do that to some degree, but it did come a little like, it just seemed a little weird, because that's how comics always have been. Well, not always, but in the modern day, the last 40 years or so, that's pretty common. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think the person writing Flash needs to be in the Batman group, but there's still continuity between the big titles, so they have to know what everyone's plans are. So yeah, they'll plan this stuff out universe wide, so stuff can flow together in some fashion.
Maybe I think what the 5G was just the integration was too much. Like there's always been kind of just what is everybody doing? Hey, does this work? But as time's gone on, we haven't really needed all of that. And you're having it happen in the families so often that you don't necessarily need everybody to be like going to a meeting like that, so to speak.
Well, let me read his exact quote here. So this was taken from the Geek History Lesson podcast. The Popverse has this on their site, so they wrote this out. He's talking about Dan Didio. He says, here's the most important part, I think, of what Dan was trying to do. He brought in a whole room of TV writers and TV writers who had experience of working with DC characters before. He said, the way I want to approach 5G is different from the way we create story and the rest of the DC universe right now. I want to have a group of writers who are accustomed to working in a room together, and not even just a bullpen, but a real writer's room where we'd all break the overarching story for a year of all the titles that would be coming out over the course of a year. But again, that's what they kind of already.
Unless what he's getting at is those writers that core group that he just described would break the overall story and then hand out assignments to. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
here's what your Green Lantern has to cover. Instead of
he said.
Go ahead.
He said we'd all go off to write our individual comics, and we'd have connections with each other to figure out where we'd end up interweaving our stories and have them meet each other. But this is I think the most extreme example of this was all the weekly comics from DC was 52. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's again literally how this was written. They all wrote it together. But yeah, it's weird because this is kind of how it was already done. So Didio's been around for a lot of this.
And he probably learned a lesson on New 52, which was okay. I'm not talking about the quality of the books as a overall company strategy. In my opinion, not great, because you had every fiefdom kind of, everybody just make up your own continuity. And he probably did not want that to happen again, especially when you're dealing with a storyline where everybody's aging in real time. You have to be completely in lockstep for that to work.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking it was more along the lines of, I think what Kevin was originally getting to is the TV writer room, which is that when they break down the story, when you go back, you're writing a story arc. You're not writing a title, meaning 4 different writers are writing Green Lantern. They're all doing different story issues, and they have to be a continuity along the line through the 4 issues, and then it switches each around again as
because he said they'd write our individual comics, but they would already have the times planned up where things would cross over and everything. So,
Yeah,
right, but each one would still be writing. It's like how Snyder and Tynion would switch off on Justice League.
I want to say I can understand what Didio was going for, but I think with where we were at the time, because that was after Rebirth had happened, and so I think Rebirth had just a lot of it had worked fairly well. You know, the Bat Family stuff from New 52 that brought, you know, Tynion on board with Scott Snyder, and you had all that stuff together. You know, like there was a lot of stuff, you know, that worked really well. But once, like, all that stuff with 5G was just this, there's an overarching story for the DC universe, and now everyone has to adhere to that. And it screams like, it just screams the problems that like plagued New 52 and Rebirth, where you would have a story and that would be, you know, you'd be writing your story in your own book, but then all of a sudden it's the Batman monsters thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to like cut in and do the Batman monsters thing. Right. And I think that mentality just, I think creators just are tired of it. They're tired of that kind of, you know, honestly, and as a reader, I'm tired of it. You know,
that's when you interrupt a series, like you said, with the Monster Man series.
Yeah,
I'm thinking more along the lines that he's just, like I said, doing the writers' room, kind of trying to mimic the Tynion and Snyder run on Justice League, because it reinvigorates people because you get a new writer on the next story arc.
Yeah,
and you come at it a little different than this, so you don't feel the droll of the same writer hitting, you know, so many peaks.
Oh no, I enjoyed when they were doing.
On time.
I enjoyed Spider-Man after One More Day when they were doing that rotative creative team stuff. Yeah. There was like this kind of thread running through Spider-Man. I enjoyed that on a specific title. I don't need that on all of DC, because honestly, if you're doing that at that level, you're kind of putting pressure on people to be buying multiple things that they may not want.
Why? The books wouldn't necessarily have to cross over anyway. We're just talking about a single title having continuity.
Oh, I know they wouldn't necessarily have to cross over, but you know, you're going to throw Batman's going to show up in some title that's not doing very well to boost sales. Like Wolverine jumps in on this book does not doing sales. It's the team up issue that eventually just drops into every story arc that like.
Yeah, but I think Didio was looking at it more along the lines of a business where he's trying to make sure that the books ship on time, because there were delays through COVID and all the other things. So by rotating the team, he makes sure that the story's always done, the art's always done, because it's different people, not tiring the same team out, or not saying, oh, we have to wait for this guy because he's our artist for this story or this run.
I mean, I like the idea of having rotating creators, as long as you have like a two kind of set teams and they're working in tandem. I don't want them to like be like wildly different styles or, you know, interrupt each other or something. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's just kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe it was maybe I'm overthinking the writer retreats and how they broke the stuff down before, but I was always under the impression that's how it worked, because that's what it seems like. You don't do Death of Superman or Nightfall or House of X and Powers of X just with a writer just being like, we'll figure it out. No, I mean the stuff is planned significantly well in advance. So yeah.
But at the same time, the Powers of X team that's planning the retreat doesn't need to involve the Avengers team.
What?
Like, none of the Avengers writers need to be in that room.
Yeah, they should, though.
They should, but I think the way they usually handled it, my understanding, is basically you have the Avengers editor in the room, not any other writers necessarily.
Yeah.
And then the editors will just mingle amongst each other to make sure that the continuity is across the line, but the team of the writers and artists are not there.
All right, one last comic story here. I think maybe we'll save on no movie or TV stuff. It's all comic book talk. Let's save any of that other stuff for next time. We'll talk some movie and TV chat next time. Finally, the final topic of this podcast. I don't know if any of you guys saw this going around social media. Bleeding Cool put together a nice little rundown of the whole thing. But Batman: The Dark Knight, #1. You know the comic. You know what this book is, right? You've heard of it? Okay.
Yeah, I've
heard of it. You know the cover, right? You know the cover of #1? Yes. Toby, can you visualize it in your head? Because I know you don't know the story. I don't know. You don't know what this is.
Yeah, are you talking about the Beast and Wolverine cover?
Nope. Dark Knight #1. Batman. Maybe you've heard of him. Batman. It's the guy that dresses like a bat.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Dark Knight.
Yeah. Whatever he's
Lightning Bolt. Huh?
Whether he's front or back facing.
Okay, so you did see this.
Yes, of course.
So this broke Comics Twitter a week or two ago, and I wanted to take a little poll here to wrap up.
How have you seen it traditionally?
Yeah. Okay. So this came up on social media where the famous cover of Batman jumping in front of that lightning bolt, Dark Knight, has been parodied and homaged billion times ever. But Batman is completely silhouetted. You cannot make out detail on him, right? Because people were posting the original art. The original art for that is, someone has it. It's cool looking. And the actual overlay pages came out, and it blew people's mind. What direction was Batman facing? Is that his back you are seeing? Is that his front? How did you see that? For
me?
Yeah. Let's get on the list. I got Kevin first.
As pulling that comic off the shelf on day one of its release to buy it.
Yeah.
Which was a big purchase. Wasn't it like $2.99? Something like that?
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, okay, this is serious now. Back facing. Always.
So you saw that was his back.
Yes.
Okay. Brock, you know the cover.
Yeah. I know the cover.
How did you view that?
To me, I've always seen it as front facing because, just no matter what, it would be it's a #1. You're gonna catch people. It's even if the logo wasn't there, the logo would be seen. So, Yeah,
you don't see the logo. It's pure black.
You don't see the logo. Yeah. It's pure black. But the thing is if it was done any other way, that's how it would be. And I'll add more after.
Toby, how have you seen that? Was he front facing? Is he jumping towards the camera, jumping away from the camera?
No, the back.
Okay, so yeah. Lane?
I know the answer, but yes, I always saw it as back facing for somewhat the same reason, the opposite reason of Brock, which is, to me, if he was front facing, we should either see his eyes or his logo.
Yeah.
And on top of that, to me, it was just one of the weirdest looking pose. I didn't understand what, it's one of those Spider-Man poses where it's how the hell can a guy do that hair?
So I have a weird answer, and it's funny because when I see the another drawing Frank Miller did recently, I always thought it was his side.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Actually, yeah, I agree with that too. Yeah. I thought it was his side originally.
I never took that he was jumping towards the camera or so he is front facing in the artwork, and I'll actually make this the header for this episode, so you can go see the actual original art. He is 90% of his body is shifted towards the camera. His face is down and kind of angled, but you can see his entire chest, his entire torso, most of his legs, front legs, crotch is just a small part is covered by his legs. I thought he was fully 90 degrees, and it's just, Mark Miller deformed, big jump. So I kind of didn't see. I didn't see. I thought he was going across.
No,
I agree.
I agree with you. That's kind of what my answer was. Is I would say he was 3/4 turned, with us seeing his back and the profile of his face. If you saw the art, but the cape to me reads as you're seeing the cape covering the body, not from behind the body.
Right. So so there he did it's funny because there's a Captain America one that he did. So he did a Hawkeye. He did a bunch of these covers for Marvel for the Avengers Twilight, which actually I read #1, fantastic. Chip Zdarsky and who's doing the art on Avengers Twilight? I don't have it in front of me. Daniel Acuna, really good, really good first issue.
Okay.
Highly recommended. Right. Yeah, it's Avengers Dark Knight. That's what this book is. There's a reason they got Frank Miller to do these covers. It's really good. But the Captain America one that he did is kind of how I see it, where the vast majority of his body is like a 90-degree turn from the camera. But the way he draws Cap, it's like his back is sort of twisted towards the camera a little bit. So I think me and Kevin may be kind of on the same page here. I never took it. He was like jumping away from the camera, but yeah, the in the picture, he is like completely full frontal facing the camera. His head is just at a 90-degree angle. Frank Miller's always had such bizarre. It's interesting. It's fascinating to go look at this stuff and see what the original intent was, but and how we've all read it for so long. I would think most people read it the other way, where they read it as that's his back. But yeah, very cool, very very cool, fascinating.
Now, I will say this: people's drawings and explanations that came out of this were amazing.
People kind of doing their overlay of how they read it and stuff.
Their overlay, or it's two different characters that you did. There's two characters there, not just one. You're like, what? I thought that's hilarious.
Yeah, there's some really funny ways people kind of had it interpreted. But this is the cool thing about art. You can look at this stuff and be like, I've definitely looked at pages, looked at a cover or something years later and been like, oh, I really misread the art on this, and this was way different now that I'm looking at this a second time. I understand the layout better, or I understand I read it in a completely different way. Yeah, that was really funny. And again, is there a photo? Is there a comic cover? Dark Knight #1 has to be top 10 most homage, parodied, reprinted cover of all time. I mean, so few books have that sort of reach.
Yeah, it's up there with Action 1 and Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah, Spider-Man 1. Yeah, I mean, the McFarlane one. Yeah, I mean, it is. It has to be one of the most represented comic covers of all time, where it's just reprinted and used and parodied.
But now we're going to get so many homages on different levels, right? Because they're going to be
back.
The back facing, the front facing, the side, and the 90. You're just going to get all types now.
That's pretty good. Pretty good.
Oh, and you know what's going to happen, right? If Dynamite does the homage, they're going to have a variant for each
front and back facing. So.
Front, back. No, 3. Front, back, and side.
All right, good stuff. Funny. Go look at the picture, the episode header for this week, and I'll make sure that's on there. And then, if you haven't seen this, go over on social media. You can find all the posts.
But it was really cool to see a lot of artists talk about this and have actual discussions and discourse and you had those random people that are screaming left and right, but majority of the conversation was just really fun and animated.
No, this is the fun. This is the fun comic stuff. It was a very good distraction from all the garbage that fills comic social medias these days. Jesus Christ, the
worst. People screaming about things all the time. Comics are ending. They're over. They're dead.
Well, if you ever want to see. You ever want to see me call someone a dumb bitch on Twitter and go follow me, Ryan Higgins Ryan? That's fun times. Anyway, this is the end of this wonderful podcast, unless anyone has anything. Toby usually jumps in with some major thing as we're halfway through the outro. So, Toby, anything you need to add to this beautiful episode before we wrap up?
No, you don't understand how this game works, Ryan Higgins. You have to start it, and therefore I mess you up.
So when people look at the thing and they're like, wait a minute, they started the outro. Why is there another 45 minutes of this podcast?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's see how far I get here. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this podcast. And we'll be back next week for the new episode before our little holiday break. Again, we won't be talking Aquaman until we get back from our break, but it'll be a nice part of our year-end roundup. So we'll... go one more, then we'll see you guys in January. Let's say thank you to all of our backers, especially our top tier backers from patreon.com/comic conspiracy. And thank you to everyone for the support of this past year as well. Edward at geekyvillain.com. The Lowdown with Luke and Derek on Spotify and YouTube. Check those guys out. Listen to their show. Joe Duff, Kelsey May, Craig Anderson at the Executive Evolution Podcast, Jimmy Rivera at the Social Forum Podcast, and Talon Bray. Thank you all for your continued support. And everyone else at patreon.com/comicconspiracy. You can find this episode and all our previous episodes at comicconspiracypodcast.com or go over to the Apple Podcast app and find us on there. You can go to comicsconspiracy.biz, pick up all sorts of cool comics there in stock for mail order, pick up whatever you want.
We have an A to Z catalog.
We do. We get our first massive batch of most of modern comics. We're dabbling, testing for the older stuff. A lot of comics, about 2005 to current. We have Kevin and myself and Brock and everyone. We have put up a lot of stuff for back issues. And now the real back issues begin, where we start to get the rare overstock and, oddball, small press, indie, weird stuff, extras, stuff we don't have space for in the shop, are going to start going up starting in January. Comicsconspiracy.biz. So if you're looking to fill in some back issues, jump on there and check it out. And now that we have that stuff done too, and we did our kind of first test sale for Black Friday, we're gonna do some targeted sales, and we'll do some warehouse sales on and off. Some kind of weave it in with our in-store sales as well. So some of that stuff that's discounted, you can get some extra discounts on. So. And check out meanwhileanthology.com, where we talk. It's our website for a comic anthology we did for our 30th anniversary. We were wrapping up here, so 30 years of Comics Conspiracy. Cheers, everyone. Comic selling well, still selling copies all the time. So not out yet, but low for sure on the Allison Sampson cover. We're definitely lower.
Yes, we're getting lower on her cover.
So won't be around forever. Pick that cover up while you can. Head over to conspiratobrock.com. See Brock's videos over there. Charlie is on the Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension podcast. He ain't got time for this podcast. It's all about Doctor Who. The third special just wrapped up. It's Christmas specials coming out. New Doctor. Great ending. No spoilers, obviously. Toby, we can talk after if you want. But what a return to form for Doctor Who after a couple, I don't know. Been last decade's been on and off, let's say. Great 3 episodes. Go check those out.
The Doctor is back.
Yeah. Go check out Kevin's weekly interview series, Between the Panels, at fanbasepress.com, interviewing all sorts of cool comic creators. And my wife, Leanne, her artwork is all at leannehill.com or etsy.com/shop/leannehill art. A little too late for any Christmas stuff at this point as far as like commissions, but I think if you buy something in the next couple days, you could probably get it there by Christmas.
Hey, I want to say her whale is comic related, but her Brendan Fraser and the whale, that was
Brock
amazing.
thinks your whale piece was amazing. So yeah.
Like I just watched the show, like the movie, like within a week. Yeah. It's an amazing movie. Yeah. But like Leanne did an amazing job. On that one.
No, I think so too. No, it was very, very, very different. Very different for her, and that was really good. If you were on Twitter, sorry, but if you're on Blue Sky, you can follow me. I'm Ryan Higgins. Brock's Brock Sager. Toby's Toby XI. He never posts, but he's on there. Kevin is that Kevin Sharp. The store is on Twitter, ComicsCon Store. I am on Twitter, Ryan Higgins Ryan. Don't post on it too much, except for this last week when I really shouldn't have. Brock's still on there. Brock Sager posts occasionally, but definitely cooling down. Well, Alex Jones is back on Twitter, so if you ever needed another reason to leave, now you have a really big one. So join us on Blue Sky. Let me know if you need an invite code. I got plenty. Head over to Geekbox podcast. Listen to that. Should have a new episode this week. Again, I think we'll have a Christmas break, but we'll talk some.
Well, the reason I haven't been on Blue Sky is I don't know how to get back on.
Toby, you are not an elderly person. You are also not an infant. You know how phones work. You have a phone. It's not a flip phone. It's a phone with features that have it's a thing called apps, right? Now they have this thing on an app called a login screen where you have to log into an account. Now, to log into an account, you usually have to have an email address. Now, what email is? It's a fascinating way to get letters. Remember, you don't get those letters, but they send it to you on the computer.
Don't like it.
Okay, so you can take that login page and you log in to the app. You access
it doesn't
the
work
app
anymore. I have to reset it and don't want to bother it.
Well, they usually have what's called a password reset page. Yeah. Now, what this allows you to do, Toby, is it allows you to reset your password to a new password. Now, if you have that email, remember you had that app where you could open your email, electronic mail, as they call it. You can open your email, your electronic mail program, and get the password reset link or code there, and change your password to whatever you want. And usually, it saves it. So you don't have to log in and log out all the time.
I hate it. I want it.
So Toby, I believe in you. I know you're 1,000 years old, but I believe in you and your ability to learn new products and technology. So,
no.
Yeah, and I know everybody wants to drop your social stuff on the videos, man. Come on.
No one will promote you but you, Toby. You got to get out there, baby. Play the game. Play the game.
Hate it.
Come talk to us.
I hate it, but I gotta play it.
Call a bunch of people dumb bitches like I do, or what the hell did I call that guy? How did I call you? Dumb bitch? What did I call him? I don't even remember anymore. It's really great though. Man,
I don't know. I when I logged into Twitter, it said, "Do you want to upgrade and use Grox?" I'm like, "What the fuck is Grox?"
That's their stupid AI thing.
I was like, "Grox? That sounds so stupid."
Grok, but it doesn't even know what it is. It's just don't even. I don't even want to talk about this.
Oh, I haven't even touched it.
Go listen to Geekbox. It's great. Go listen to Geekbox. We'll probably be complaining about all the same stuff on Geekbox, and I'll talk about Doctor Who on there as well. All right. Thank you all very, very much. We'll be back next week for our final episode of 2023. See you then.